Part 59. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 581. The Taoist priest slowly closed his eyes, slowly clasped his hands together, and then quickly kneaded the secret formula while chanting, Lin, Bing, Du, Zhe. Golden light slowly spread around the Taoist priest. The speed of his seal formation was extremely fast, which dazzled everyone who saw it. When a Taoist priest casts a spell, he will recite the spell with his mouth and press the seal with his hand to cast the spell. You can tell from the speed of the Taoist priest's seal formation that he is very powerful. However, for me, performing Taoist magic doesn't have to be so troublesome at all. Because the secret talisman is there, as long as I am strong, I can decide the number and power of the talismans as I wish. Following the Taoist priest's movements, a golden bagua array appeared in front of him. He opened his eyes suddenly, held up the sword technique with his right hand, shouted loudly, and the golden bagua array broke through the air and enveloped the Shroud Ghost King. Immediately afterwards, the bagua array began to rotate slowly, and countless golden rays of light shot towards the Shroud Ghost King like bullets. I suddenly discovered that the attack of this golden light was not illogical. Every beam of golden light went straight to the acupuncture points of the Shroud Ghost King. The golden light penetrated into the acupuncture points of the Shroud Ghost King, instantly blocking the Shroud Ghost King's movements. Seeing this, I controlled the sea of ghosts and surrounded the Shroud Ghost King layer by layer. The Yin soldiers and generals appeared, raised their weapons and attacked the Ghost King. Even with the blood blessing of the soul-stealing blood hand, Yin Bing Yin will not cause much harm to the Shroud Ghost King. The Ghost King is the king of the ghost world in the six paths. He is the one who rules one side. If it is really so easy to eliminate, it would not be worthy of the title of Ghost King. However, with my current strength, it is still possible to seriously injure the Ghost King. I took a deep breath, pinched the seal of the God-inviting mantra, and silently recited the spell in my heart. A cool white light slowly appeared on my body. The white light became more and more dazzling, and after a moment, a tyrannical force filled every part of my body. A cold air burst out from my body. Zhang Xiai and others looked at me with horror on their faces. Tao Wen even screamed, "Go out!" Immediately afterwards, Lu Hangxuan's voice sounded in my mind. "Lu Su, what happened?" I briefly described the current situation to Lu Hangxuan. After hearing this, Lu Hangxuan said, "Okay, I will lend you my power." As soon as I finished speaking, something changed in me. White scales emerged from my body layer by layer, as if I was wearing a piece of silver white armor. Even my pupils changed and turned into snake pupils. I held it in the air, and the golden heart sword appeared in my hand. While holding the sword in my right hand, I picked up the 9 layers thunder ju. Boom! The dull thunder sounded out of thin air, and dark clouds rolled in the night sky and gathered above my head at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, there were bursts of thunder and lightning in the sky. I said that the 9-level thunder technique was superimposed to the 5th level, and purple lightning gathered in my palm and spread to the body of the heart sword. At the same time, a thunder exploded from the sky, and purple thunder and lightning tore through the night sky. I raised the sword in my hand and shouted loudly. The thunder from the sky gathered above my head. Its power was enough to destroy the heaven and the earth. Everyone on the turtle's back looked at me in surprise, and Zhang Xiai was so shocked that he couldn't even close his mouth. Perhaps, he never expected that my strength would improve so quickly in such a short period of time. I looked stern and slashed hard at the Shroud Ghost King with the sword in my hand. At the same time, the purple sky thunder hovering in the sky and the purple lightning in my hand gathered together and struck towards the Shroud Ghost King. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 582. Boom! Purple thunder and lightning exploded and spread for hundreds of meters. There was no boundary between heaven and earth, but merged together. I couldn't tell where was the sky and where was the earth. Everything I looked at was purple light. The fierce ghosts around the Shroud Ghost King were also affected and turned into ashes in an instant. The thunder and lightning disappeared, time returned to silence, and the roar of the fierce ghost had disappeared. Looking at the Ghost King, his shroud was in tatters and his body was charred. However, he was still floating on the river. I couldn't help but feel quiet in my heart. This Ghost King in shroud was stronger than I imagined. However, it seems that the Shroud Ghost King doesn't want to bother us anymore. He looked at me coldly, and the vicious and resentful look in his eyes made my heart tremble. The figure of the Ghost King in shroud has begun to become transparent. It seemed that the thunder strike just now almost knocked him out of his mind. The Ghost King in shroud flashed and flew towards the distance. I sighed slightly. It seemed that I had established a strong enemy invisibly. Lu Hangxuan's voice sounded in my mind. Lu Su, you have to deal with the next thing by yourself. I suddenly noticed that Lu Hangxuan's voice was a little weak, and I asked, "What's wrong with you?" Lu Hangxuan replied, "Since you left, I have tried to adapt to this dragon body. Because I am an immortal myself, the body and soul are somewhat repulsive, so I am trying to find a way to completely integrate the body and soul." Hearing Lu Hangxuan say this, I breathed a long sigh of relief. I thought she was in some trouble. Lu Hangxuan continued, "If the body and soul are truly integrated, then I will reach the threshold of transforming into a dragon. Therefore, it is only a matter of time before transforming into a dragon and ascending." I said to Lu Hangxuan, "Thank you very much for what happened this time." Lu Hangxuan chuckled lightly and then said goodbye to me. Then, I felt all the strength in my body was taken away. I felt dizzy, my limbs were weak, and I fell to one side. Miao Fengluan quickly took me into his arms with quick eyes and hands, and then helped me sit down. She stretched out her hand and gently stroked my head, her movements gentle and her face gentle. But at this moment, the originally quiet surroundings became noisy again, and countless ghosts once again surrounded us. Because I had consumed so much energy just now, the evil suppressing seal could no longer maintain its power, and the golden inscriptions had returned to the bottom of the evil suppressing seal. I looked around, and everywhere I looked, there was a vast expanse of white. The number of these evil ghosts was too numerous to count. Seeing that the ghosts were about to drown us, at this critical moment, Zhang Shii squeezed the seal with his hand and shouted, and a golden Bagua array appeared on the turtle's back. The magic circle rotated and enveloped the entire old turtle. Bang bang bang. The galloping ghosts hit the magic circle firmly, as if they hit a stiff wall. The old turtle began to speed up, galloping on the river, and the ghosts followed him like a shadow, pressing closer step by step. I looked directly ahead of the river. When I saw the scene in front of me, I was slightly startled. I don't know when, the old turtle has left the village. The flow of the river is exactly the mountain in front of us. As the saying goes, water flows downward. But at this moment, the water is flowing to higher places. This phenomenon completely subverts common sense. But if you think about it carefully, this river is just like the Styx. It's normal to be a little weird. With the protection of the magic circle, those evil spirits cannot harm us. The old turtle began to accelerate and swam along the river towards the top of the mountain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 583. The moonlight flows down quietly like water. On both sides of the river, there are towering trees, full of life. The fierce ghost behind him has been thrown away by the old turtle, and the surroundings are calm again, with only the sound of rushing water in his ears. The Taoist priest came to me and said with a smile, "Boy, your strength is pretty good. Not many people of your age can reach your level." I smiled at the Taoist priest and said nothing, because now I don't even have the strength to speak. Tao Wen came up and introduced me. Let me introduce, this is my senior brother, his name is Wang Cheng, and he studied under Taoist Master Suingzin. Taoist Master Suingzin should be one of those four elders. Wang Cheng sat cross-legged, yawned, leaned up, and said lazily, I originally didn't want to get involved in this matter, but due to my master's last words, I have to come. Tao Wen whispered in my ear, you may not think that my senior brother is so lazy, but he is extremely skilled in Taoism, and he is also a rich second generation. Hearing what Tao Wen said, I suddenly became interested. The rich second generation still wants to be a Taoist priest? I asked the doubts in my mind. After hearing this, Wang Cheng laughed and said, I became a Taoist priest because I was completely deceived by my master. Besides, what's so good about the life of a second-generation rich man? All kinds of rules restrict me, and I don't feel comfortable at all. Through a short conversation, I had a general understanding of Wang Cheng. How to say? Wang Cheng's character is somewhat similar to Mr. Ma. He is bohemian, advocates freedom, and is also very lazy. In just a few minutes of conversation he yawned no less than 30 times. Soon, the old turtle had swam along the river to the top of the mountain. Looking far into the distance, you can see the mountains and ridges. As night falls, the mountains in front of us are like tall mountain gods, standing between heaven and earth with endless majesty. After a short rest, I had recovered. I stood up and came to the front of the turtle's back. In front of me, the river was in the form of a fault. As the old turtle swam slowly, a steep cliff appeared in front of me. The cliff is not straight down, but has a certain slope. But this slope is very steep in my opinion. Directly below the cliff is a waterfall more than 1,000 meters high. Seeing that the old turtle was about to fall down the waterfall along the river, I quickly turned around and shouted to the people behind me, everyone, hold on tight. After hearing my words, everyone quickly lay on the old turtle's back, then stretched out their hands and grabbed the edge of the turtle's back tightly. I also quickly lay down and followed the example of others and grabbed the turtle's back. The old turtle began to descend rapidly along the river. I felt that my body was empty, and the endless feeling of weightlessness came down towards me. My heart was in my throat. This feeling was like being on a jumping machine at an amusement park. It was thrilling and exciting. The cold river water washed over my body with strong force. The river water was like a knife cutting my skin, and the strong washing force made me lose my grip. At this moment, we must be doing free fall on a 1,000-meter cliff. I don't know how long the cold river water washed away. Suddenly, the feeling of strong water flow disappeared in an instant. There was a buzzing sound in my ears, and I felt like my whole body fell into the water. I opened my eyes and looked around. The cold moonlight poured down through the river, illuminating the dark bottom of the water. At this time, the old turtle was struggling to swim upstream, and Zhang Shii and others were holding onto the edge of the turtle's back tightly. At this moment, the water surged and the biting cold hit me from all directions. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 584. Countless black shadows swam towards the old turtle. Immediately afterwards, a harsh cry could be heard faintly in the airs. Wang Cheng, Zhang Shii, and others also heard this voice. They turned their heads and looked towards the bottom of the water. For a moment, their eyes widened with fear, as if they had seen something terrible. I also turned my head and looked towards the bottom of the water. It didn't matter what I saw, my scalp was numb with shock. Countless figures were moving around on the bottom of the river. Due to the clear water quality and the illumination of the moonlight, I could clearly see the faces of those figures. They were dressed in white, their faces were pale, only their eyes and lips were extremely bright red, and their long, jet black hair was floating freely in the water, like clumps of seaweed. This is a forbidden woman. I am no stranger to the mention of the Forbidden Woman, because she has appeared in some novels, and she is very impressive. The real Forbidden Women are a legend in the fishing villages in the south. They are ghosts that harm and eat people. However, among fishermen, Jinpo represents a disease. According to legend, its bones have a peculiar fragrance and have the effect of making people fall asleep. Why are there so many forbidden women here? The old turtle was still struggling to swim towards the water, but those forbidden women had already arrived in front of us. The long black hair looked extraordinarily silky in the water. The long hair of countless forbidden women gathered together, as if darkness was coming to swallow them up. Upon seeing this, I quickly opened the Nine Eyes heavenly domain and enveloped Lao Yuan, Zhang Xiai, Wang Cheng and others. I'm going to move them all to the surface. The bottom of the water is the home court of the Forbidden Woman, and we cannot exert our full strength. Just when the long hair was about to surround us, the old turtle disappeared in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the feeling of suffocation disappeared, replaced by extremely smooth breathing. I stretched out my hand, wiped the river water from my face, and then looked at the bottom of the river. The black shadow was approaching the old turtle at a very fast speed. The old turtle seemed to be in a daze, floating motionless on the water and could only move forward along the river. At this moment, Xiao He flew down from high altitude. As soon as he fell off the cliff, the guy flew away. He landed on my shoulder and asked, "Why don't you leave?" I pointed to the old turtle under me and said, "We also want to leave, but it won't leave." Xiao He made a crow call and said to me, "Wait. I'll go talk to it." Then, Xiao He flew in front of the old turtle and screamed non-stop. Suddenly, countless black hairs tied the old turtle tightly, and now the old turtle couldn't move forward along the river. I summoned my heart sword and cut off the long black hair that bound the old turtle. But when I just cut off my long hair, the hair spread again. Zhang Xiai, Wang Cheng and others also went with me to cut off the long hair. Xiao He landed on my shoulder, and I quickly asked, "How's it going?" What Xiao He said next almost made me angry to death. I suddenly discovered that, the language of birds and the language of turtles seem different. Wang Cheng heard this and shouted from the side, "You crow! I should stew you." Xiao He shrank his neck. In desperation, I could only use the netherworld ghost sea to fight against the forbidden woman in the river. The blood-colored sea of ghosts emerged from the water and swallowed up the black hair in an instant. Seeing this scene, I was slightly stunned. The sea of ghosts and ghosts can actually swallow these black hairs. But if you think about it carefully, these black hair are all formed by yin qi, otherwise it would not be possible to stretch infinitely. Yin Bing Yin, wearing blood-colored armor, will emerge from the sea of blood-colored ghosts, raise the weapons in his hands and fight with the forbidden woman under the water. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 585. The netherworld ghost sea can not only summon yin soldiers and yin generals, but also restrict the movements of ghosts. With the emergence of the ghost sea, the forbidden woman at the bottom of the river fell into passivity. Although Jinpo is very powerful at the bottom of the river. But the sea of ghosts and ghosts is also the home of the yin soldiers and yin generals. Wang Cheng looked at the yin soldiers and yin generals who were fighting with the forbidden woman in the water. He looked at me with doubts in his eyes and asked, "You know, only the emperor of the underworld has the right to summon the yin soldiers' silver medal. And who are you? Are you able to summon yin soldiers and yin generals?" I smiled at Wang Cheng and said that I didn't know either. As time went by, I suddenly felt that the netherworld ghost sea was a little stronger. I looked at the river and saw that under the moonlight, the river turned blood red. I was stunned on the spot for an instant. The scope of this ghost sea was countless times larger than before. I carefully felt the ghost sea, and suddenly found that a powerful yin energy appeared again in the ghost sea. I felt happy, it seemed that the sea of ghosts and ghosts had swallowed up the yin qi of these forbidden women and became stronger. I tried to mobilize the yin energy in the sea of ghosts. The next moment, a dozen yin soldiers holding shields appeared from the sea of ghosts. Shield bearer. Before it was over, another dozen yin soldiers holding long hair appeared behind the shield hand. Lancer. An uncontrollable smile appeared on my face. The current netherworld ghost sea has not only infantry, cavalry, archers, shield bearers, and spearmen. Isn't this the basic organization of ancient generals? Moreover, the number of yin soldiers that the netherworld ghost sea can summon has now approached 100. If the sea of ghosts and ghosts is allowed to continue to devour the yin qi, the number of yin soldiers will increase. I just don't know if any powerful ghost generals will be summoned to serve me in the future. When it comes to the ghost general, I feel a little scared. Sooner or later there will be a battle between me and General Huo. I just wish that day would come later so that I could improve my strength. With the addition of Shield Hand and Hairy Hand, the forbidden woman at the bottom of the river was quickly eliminated. Yin Bing Yin will emerge from the bottom of the river and stand on the water. They are arranged neatly. This is the first time I have observed these yin soldiers and yin generals. Except for their pale faces, they are just like normal people. Their faces were different, and each of them had an extremely determined look on their face. I put away the sea of ghosts, and the yin soldiers and yin will disappear. At this time, the old turtle also recovered and began to swim slowly along the river again. I asked Tao when to take out the human skin paper and take a look at the map on it. I didn't look carefully before, but I just saw a river and a ghost gate. Now that I take a closer look, I realize that we have overlooked many details. There is an inconspicuous village at the end of the river. I thought it was Chuihua village. In addition, I also saw a big tree. And this big tree is on the river not far from Gaimengwan. As long as we see that big tree, we are not far from the gate of hell. The old turtle moved forward slowly, and we just took this time to take a rest. Time passed by, and Xiao He flew to the road ahead to check the situation. Xiao He left for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then he flew back. It landed on the back of the old turtle and said to us, "I saw a towering tree in front of me. I swear, I have never seen such a big tree in my life." When I heard the word towering tree, I suddenly became energetic. It seemed that I was not far from the gate of hell. Soon, we saw the shadow of the tree. I was stunned on the spot for a moment. Just as Xiao He said, this tree was so huge that it simply subverted my understanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 586. The silhouette of the big tree in the darkness was 100 meters high. The General Sherman tree is the largest tree in the world and is often considered the largest living thing, with a height of 83.8 meters and a maximum diameter of 11.1 meters at the base. People standing in front of it are like ants. The big tree not far away was at least twice as big as the General Sherman tree. How come there are such huge trees in this world? After a while, we followed the river and came to the giant tree. Arriving under the giant tree, the shock in my heart reached an indescribable level. There are high mountains on both sides of the giant tree, and the giant tree spans 2 mountains and grows above the water. That's right, it was born above the water. The roots of the giant tree dug deep into the mountains on both sides, but due to the erosion of the river, a water tunnel appeared directly beneath the giant tree. This water tunnel is 5 or 6 meters wide, but compared with the giant tree, it seems a bit insignificant. What forms the walls of the tunnel are the thick and dense roots of the giant tree. When Wang Cheng and Tao Wen saw this giant tree, they were stunned on the spot. The two looked at each other and saw doubts in each other's eyes. Seeing their reaction, I asked, "What's wrong?" Wang Cheng looked at the giant tree in front of him and said, "This tree seems to be the legendary 10,000 burial ghost tree." 1,000 burial ghost tree? This is the first time I heard the term 10,000 burial ghost tree. Zhang Shi looked shocked and said, "I originally thought the 10,000 burial ghost tree was a legend. I didn't expect it to actually exist." I quickly asked, "What exactly is the 10,000 burial ghost tree?" Wang Cheng explained to me, "In this world, there are earth burials, water burials, and clay pot burials, and the 10,000 ghosts tree burial, as the name suggests, means that tens of thousands of people are buried in the tree. Thousands of people are buried." But I immediately discovered the flaw in this sentence. Although the scale of the 10,000 ghosts tree burial is large, why are they buried in the tree? I asked the doubts in my mind. After hearing this, Wang Cheng replied, "The burial of 10,000 ghosts tree is very evil. Legend has it that only the immortal tree that has taken root in the underworld can achieve the burial of 10,000 ghosts. According to legend, the immortal underworld tree connects the two realms of yin and yang. Its roots lead directly to the underworld. It grows by sucking the yin qi in the underworld. In addition, the underworld tree will also attract lonely souls and ghosts in the yang world, or people who are about to die, came here to be buried." The more I listened, the more surprised I became. Wang Cheng looked up at the giant tree and said, "The giant tree in front of me is very similar to the legendary immortal tree." While we were talking, the old turtle had already entered the water tunnel formed by the roots of the immortal tree. The light inside is no better than outside. Although it is dim, there is moonlight shining through the roots of the trees. The trunk of the immortal tree is very thick, but of course there are also small ones. The river flows along the thick tree trunks. The space here is not too big or too small, just right, allowing the old turtle to pass through easily. Wang Cheng, Zhang Shi, and Tao Wen looked very cautious. Ruo Hung firmly protected Miao Fengluan behind her. I also started to get nervous unconsciously, and I paid careful attention to my surroundings. The surroundings were quiet except for the sound of rushing water. At this moment, I suddenly felt that there were countless pairs of eyes staring at me in the darkness. I looked around and found nothing. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a thick tree root on one side. There seemed to be something carved on the root of the tree. I turned my head and looked at the tree root. When I saw the shape of the tree root clearly through the moonlight, I was stunned on the spot. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 587. I saw that there was a human face growing on the root of the tree. Etc. Not just faces. The body and limbs are growing. The man on the root of the tree was lying on his back with his hands folded on his chest, just like the dead man hiding before hiding. I looked around at the tree roots, and all I could see were these kinds of people in the trees. Zhang Shi saw me so surprised and asked, "What's wrong?" I pointed to the tree roots around me and replied, "You, look at the tree roots around you." Several people looked in the direction I pointed. It didn't matter what they saw, they were instantly stunned to the ground. Ruo Hung asked in disbelief, "How did they get into the roots of the tree?" Wang Cheng pondered for a moment and explained, "These people in the tree are most likely from the underworld. After all, the roots of the immortal tree are rooted in the underworld." Zhang Shi, and Tao Wen agree with this statement. "We'd better be careful. I always feel like these people in the trees are alive." As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind came, causing ripples on the water. Although the seal in the water tunnel is not tight, it is impossible to blow such a strong wind. At this moment, Xiao He suddenly shouted at me, "Lu Su! You are the real crow's mouth? They are really alive." I was stunned and looked in the direction of Xiao He. In front of it is a huge tree root, and the man in the tree has already emerged from this tree root. The man in the tree exudes a chilling yin energy all over his body. This is not the man in the tree. It's clearly a ghost in the tree. The thick tree roots began to squirm crazily, just like a group of snakes curling up and entangled with each other. Moreover, the tree roots seemed to be alive, blocking our way forward. The way forward is blocked and we can only stay here. The roots of the tree in front of me are too thick and difficult to break. I summoned my heart sword and struck hard at the root of the tree. Poof, something surprising happened. The skin of the tree root was cut open by the heart sword, revealing the scarlet flesh inside. An idea emerged in my mind. No. No way, the whole immortal tree turned out to be a spirit. Wang Cheng also discovered this, and he said to me, "You help me stop those evil spirits in the trees, and I will find a way to clear the way." I nodded. Looking around, all the tree ghosts have emerged from the tree roots. Zhang Xiai, Tao Wen and others are fighting hard. The real threat is not the evil spirits in these trees, but these troublesome tree roots. These roots were coming at us like crazy. We can't hide, we can only use our methods to deal with it, because once we hide, the old turtle underneath us will be attacked. We still need to rely on the old turtle to enter the underworld. I summoned the heavenly secret and directly cast the fire talisman. The scorching fire burst out from the talisman and went straight towards the roots of the tree. But the moment the fire touched the roots of the tree, the fire went out. I instantly understood what was going on. The yin qi of the immortal nether tree is so powerful that ordinary fire cannot harm him at all. At this moment, a thick tree root struck towards Miao Fengluan. My expression condensed, and I walked up to Miao Fengluan with a single stride. I raised the heart sword in my hand and slashed towards the roots of the tree. Puff! I made a bloody gash in the root of the tree. However, what I didn't expect was that the tree root was not repelled by me, but instead attacked me. Before I could make a mistake, I was entangled by tree roots and was thrown directly into the air. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 588. Before I could react, I felt bound by countless roots and then stagnated in mid-air. "Lusu!" Miao Fengluan shouted at me anxiously. I quickly replied, "Don't worry. You must ensure your own safety first. I have a way to escape." Miao Fengluan bit her red lips lightly, her eyes as bright as stars were full of worry. Before I could continue the conversation, the slender roots on the tree's roots wrapped me heavily, and even my mouth was tightly wrapped by the roots. I was like a mummy at the moment, unable to even move a finger. The slender roots on the body were bundled tighter and tighter, and bone-chilling pain spread from everywhere on the body. Puff, puff. The roots penetrated deep into my flesh like steel wires, and scarlet blood slowly flowed along the roots. "We can't go on like this, we have to find a way to break free. Otherwise, I will definitely die here." I recited the golden light mantra silently in my heart, trying to use the power of the golden light mantra to break free. But I found that the power in my body was draining away rapidly, as if it was being sucked away. These roots are absorbing my power and devouring my vitality. Thinking of this, my heart froze. At this moment, a strange feeling spread from the bottom of my heart to all parts of my body. I felt like my skin was getting hot, accompanied by a bone-chilling coldness. As time went by, the burning sensation on my body became stronger and stronger, and it felt like my whole body was on fire. Sizzle! There was a sudden sound of something burning in my ears. Immediately afterwards, I felt that the roots that bound me were slowly relaxing. The next moment, the roots between my eyes were burned to ashes. I looked at my body, and it didn't matter. I was stunned for a moment. I saw that the roots wrapping my body were ignited by crimson flames. And these flames seemed to spread out of my body. The flames were a coquettish crimson color, clearly flames, but with a bone-chilling coldness. Just facing this flame can give people chills. Soon, the crimson flames burned off the roots, and then, I felt like my body was empty and I fell straight towards the water. With a splash, I fell heavily into the water. I stabilized my body and swam toward the water. When my head came out of the water, I was completely shocked. The crimson flames fell into the water in mid-air and were still burning without being extinguished. What is the origin of this flame? Before I could figure out the situation in front of me, a slender white jade hand stretched out in front of my eyes. I took a closer look and saw that it was Miao Fengluan. Miao Fengluan didn't know when she jumped off the old turtle's back. She grabbed my shoulder and led me to swim in the direction of the old turtle. Don't be afraid, I'm here to save you. This is the first time I have seen such a strong Miao Fengluan. In the past, she has always been weak and well behaved. But now, the look in her eyes was indeed extremely determined. Miao Fengluan came here in a hurry, because all the strength in my body was drained by the immortal Mingzhu, and just swimming to the surface of the water had already consumed the rest of my strength. Soon, Miao Fengluan and I swam to the old turtle. Miao Fengluan was pulling me along this way. If I had to rely on myself, I would never be able to swim here. Zhang Xiai and Ruo Honglian pulled me and Miao Fengluan up. I fell on the back of the old turtle and gasped for air. I calmed down for a while and looked around. I found that the ghosts in the trees were keeping a certain distance from us and looking at me with horror on their faces. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 589. Wait, it's not me they're afraid of, but the crimson flames on the water. I raised my arms to my eyes. My arms were horribly strangled by those wire-like roots, and there were countless large and small wounds. But I didn't find anything unusual. If I guessed correctly, these balls of crimson fire came out of the surface of my skin. Is this the power of my body? However, what kind of existence is this flame? Before we had time to think too much, the huge roots blocking our progress behind us had been destroyed by Wang Chen using Mission's secret method, and the old turtle swam forward along the river again. Those tree ghosts bypassed the crimson flames and attacked us again. I struggled to stand up, and Miao Fengluan quickly said to me, "You are injured, you should take a good rest." Miao Fengluan held my hand tightly with her jade arms and looked at me with worry. I shook my head at her and said, "Don't worry, these are just skin injuries." I didn't lie to Miao Fengluan. Even though I'm covered in blood now, these injuries are only superficial. If I delay for a while, those roots will probably tear me apart. Zhang Xiai came to me, looked at the densely packed tree ghosts in front of him, and said with a serious expression, "There are simply too many of these evil ghosts, and we can't kill them all." I nodded, took a deep breath, and opened the Nine Eyes realm. The Nine-Eyed Heaven instantly enveloped us and the ghost in the tree in front of us. I'm going to try to summon that crimson flame again. I closed my eyes and carefully recalled how I felt when the flames appeared. As time passed by, I could clearly feel the cold wind in front of me, and the bone-chilling cold made my hair shiver. Suddenly, I felt like something was slowly passing through my body. I opened my eyes suddenly, and the sight in front of me surprised and delighted me. I saw that the originally dark Nine Eyes Heaven realm was now filled with blazing fire, and everything he looked at was blazing red. The ghosts in the trees were also burned by the fire and let out heart-rending roars. Wang Chen, Zhang Xiai, and others looked at me in surprise. I stretched out my hand and tried to control the crimson flames. To my surprise, these flames can actually be manipulated. Soon, countless tree ghosts were burned to death by the fire. The surroundings instantly became deathly silent. Everyone breathed a long sigh of relief. But now is not the time to relax, we have to get out of here quickly. The old turtle seemed to be aware of the crisis, waving four of them desperately, and swam forward. Not long after I walked forward, I heard a rustling sound above my head, and I looked up. I saw countless tree ghosts burrowing out from the roots of the immortal tree. My expression became serious. If you want to leave here, you must face the ghost in the tree. But a very serious problem faced me, that is, there were simply too many ghosts in these trees. It is simply impossible to eliminate it. But we cannot leave these ghosts in the trees alone. I looked at the thick roots around me, and a crazy idea emerged from the bottom of my heart. Zhang Shi saw me thinking deeply and asked, "How is it? Do you have any idea?" I nodded, looked at everyone, and said, "I want to burn this immortal tree." As soon as I said this, everyone looked at me blankly. Wang Cheng immediately denied it. This method can indeed help us escape from danger, but the reason why this tree is called the immortal tree is that no matter what happens, it will not be destroyed. I shook my head at Wang Cheng, and then expressed my thoughts. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 590. Ordinary fire cannot burn down the immortal tree, but... Before I finished speaking, Wang Cheng understood what I meant. He took over my words and said, "You want to use those crimson flames?" I nodded, and Zhang Shi took a breath and said, "Lu Su, why didn't I realize you were so crazy before?" I smiled lightly and replied, "This is not forced. I don't know if the crimson flames can burn down the immortal tree, but there is no other way at the moment. Because I found that these fiery red flames only have an effect on evil things. Others should be unable to ignite. If burning the immortal tree causes a wildfire, there is nothing we can do about it." Seeing countless tree ghosts attacking us, I no longer hesitated and opened the Nine Eyes Sky Realm. Fiery red flames appeared out of thin air and gathered into a huge fire dragon in the sky. I was stunned, and the fire dragon soared into the sky and surrounded all the thick roots in an instant. A few of us watched all this with bated breath. I kept praying in my heart that this crimson flame must work. In a moment, the crimson flame instantly ignited the roots with the power of a single spark that can start a prairie fire. Ah! The sounds of miserable howls echoed all around. I looked overjoyed and looked at everyone. Everyone had joy on their faces. The old turtle under his feet seemed to feel fear, and he quickly fidgeted with his limbs and swam crazily forward. The flames behind him followed him like a shadow. Although the fire started a prairie fire, he could not feel the heat at all. Just as the crimson flames were burning the immortal tree, the surrounding roots were squirming like crazy, and the scene was extremely chaotic. At this moment, a strong wind suddenly roared in my ears. I turned around suddenly and saw a root as thick as a bucket hitting us hard. Seeing that there was no way to escape, I opened the Nine Eyes prison and left here with Lao Yu. In a blink of an eye, we had left where we were. Boom! The place we were at before was covered in waves by roots as thick as buckets. Xiao He landed on my shoulder and said to me, "Can't you just take us away from here?" I shook my head and replied, "No, because I don't know how far the road ahead is. In addition, I don't know the road conditions ahead. If I act rashly, we will be trapped here." Xiao He nodded and said nothing more. The turtle continued to move forward, and the surrounding roots attacked us again and again as if with purpose. Helpless, I could only use the ability of the Nine Eyes Heaven Realm to avoid fatal attacks again and again. Later, I asked Miao Fengluan to use the power of Shinayan to hide us. With the protection of Shinayan, these thick roots instantly lost their purpose and could only slap the water randomly. This also relieved a lot of burden for me. 5 minutes later, we finally left the water tunnel. I raised my head and looked at this towering tree. The crimson flames had spread from the roots of the tree to the body. The towering immortal tree struggled desperately like a human being, and countless leaves slowly fell off, like a heavy green snow. The howling sounds are endless, and these howling sounds are all made by the ghosts in the trees. Moreover, I also discovered that the body of the immortal nether tree was bleeding with scarlet blood. The old turtle quickly escaped from here, but at this moment, a gust of dark wind hit, and a figure appeared out of thin air on the back of the old turtle.